Hey, happy Friday, besties and bosses. How's everyone doing? How's everyone's week going? Let me make sure I'm all centered up here. So, how many of y'all are using hashtags for your Instagram? And how many of you are maybe a little confused on if you're using them the right way, if you're using them to the best of their ability? If so, this week is for you. This live is for you. I have had this come up with a couple of my private coaching clients, and I decided this was probably something we could all use a little more info around. So I'm going to dive into all of the what, how, and why of hashtags today. But I also created blog posts around this. And if you click on the image of the blog post, you can access and download a freebie, which has all of this information in there so you can reference it. And I also put together around, I don't know, it's probably like 200 plus of my favorite Instagram hashtags for creatives, for entrepreneurs, for coaches that I find are quality hashtags, because I know it can be a pain to figure out and come up with hashtags. So to get you started, I put that all together. You can just click on the link that I included here to access all of that. I'm really excited about it. I never thought I'd be excited about hashtags, but I had a lot of fun putting this together, and I'm really hoping it's going to be helpful for all of you. Okay, so let's dive in. And if any of you have any questions, please let me know. Just pop them below. I know sometimes there's a lag on this when questions pop up. So if for some reason I don't see them, I'll come back after the live and answer them. But let's jump into hashtags. So hashtags, I think we all probably know what they are at this point, but if you don't, there's no shame. I will tell you that before I started using social media for marketing for my business, I kind of knew what hashtags were, but I really thought they were more just this funny thing. And I would text friends with these long run-on sentences and throw a hashtag before it and think that I was hysterical, which I wasn't. But that was about the extent of my knowledge with hashtags. So if it feels a little muddy to you, no biggie, we're going to dive into that today. So that we're all on the same page, a hashtag is a word or a phrase with the hashtag symbol placed before it. And this is something that's used on social media as a way to organize and search for posts. I think of it like SEO, search engine optimization. I think of it as SEO for social media. And today I'm going to talk specifically about Instagram, but these are used on Facebook. These are used on Twitter. Pinterest just started rolling these out. Don't know a whole lot about Pinterest. Claire Drake, who's a member in here, she has a freebie on her website. So that's worth checking out if you're interested more in that. So that's what hashtags are. Now, before we dive more into the why and the how and how to use these, I want to preface this with the knowledge that hashtags are a tool for our business. They're a tool for Instagram, but they're not a magic silver bullet. So they're something we can all use to help boost that visibility, to help boost connecting with others, but they're not going to be a magic bullet. They work really well for some people in their businesses, not as well for others, and that's okay. We don't have the same businesses. So just keep that in mind as you're learning this and as you're using them, that they're not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. They work really well for others, not as well for other people, and that's okay. And I say that just because I think sometimes we can get ourselves really stressed out around some of these things, or we can latch on to a tool, especially around social media, being the next quick fix thing. And I don't want us to get it all twisted here or set up some weird expectations. I'll share in my business for Instagram, hashtags are not the way that I have grown my following or whatever you want to call it, but I have used them to connect with others. And that's my favorite way to use them, which I'll dive into in a second. I do think of hashtags as free advertising. So I think they're worth it for all of us to use. So let's talk about why we should use hashtags after that preamble. So later.com, which is a scheduling app, they have stated the stat that people who use hashtags on their Instagram or on their social media can see a boost of 12.6% in their social media engagement. And with algorithms changing all the time, and with it harder and harder to get that organic reach, I think this is a really great thing to use because it's free and it just helps us to be more visible and to get in front of other people. I say, why not use every tool we have at our disposal? Like I said earlier, I think of this as a form of free advertising, and it's a way to boost our visibility. So that is one awesome reason to use hashtags. Even if they're not making a huge difference, they're going to give you that 12.6% boost. couple other ways to use hashtags, and these are actually some of my favorite ways, is I think hashtags can be a great way to build community. So, for example, they can be a way to organize a group of people around a central theme, idea, or movement. So hashtag Me Too is a great example of this. When people used hashtag Me Too, they could search for that hashtag and find everyone who had posted under that hashtag and find that community of people who were sharing the same thoughts, who were going through the same thing. And it built this not only huge movement that you could track and organize, but it built a group of people that could connect around this hashtag. So that is one way it can really build that community. It can be a great way to search for like-minded people. So if there's a hashtag, again, like Me Too, it can be a way to search out and seek other people who are like-minded to build that community, to find that world online. And that's one of my favorite ways to use it. I've met some really great people online, and hashtags are one of the ways that I've found that community to connect with them. Another way hashtags can be used that I think can be really helpful for us as entrepreneurs is, again, that organizational tool. So an example of this is, let's say I'm running a challenge. I can create a specific hashtag to that challenge, and that hashtag is now going to organize all of the posts people share using that hashtag. So I can then go in, search my hashtag unique to the challenge that I'm running, and find everyone who's sharing a post under it so that I can go find them, connect with them, comment, like, answer any questions they have. Otherwise, it can be really difficult to figure out where these people are hanging out on social media, where they are. And it can make everyone in that challenge able to connect with and, again, have that community, because they can then find people who have posted that similar hashtag, find their buddies or people they don't know under that hashtag, like, comment, share, support. I think Ashley Bowden does a great job of this with The Imperfect Boss. She has a challenge she runs. She uses the hashtag The Imperfect Boss. And so when you share a post, you can find other people who are sharing that post, connect with them, give them some support, engage with them, and you know they're going to be like-minded in some way. And I've met some great people that way. She can also then go search The Imperfect Boss and see everyone who's participating and show some love and connect with them. So it can be hashtags can be really powerful for that as well. And just another way they're not just used to boost our Instagram likes or our Instagram feeds. Another way they're used that I think can be really great for all of us as entrepreneurs and as creatives is to create brand awareness. So some brands, or some personal brands, some big brands, will create hashtags specific and unique to their brand. And this allows all of their posts to be organized and sorted underneath this hashtag. And it also allows, kind of gives them free advertising, because then if you follow the brand and use their hashtag, you're showing some awareness, you're spreading some brand awareness around their brand. So Coca-Cola does a great job with this. They have a hashtag, it's called Share a Coke, hashtag Share a Coke. And that's just an example of a brand creating a specific hashtag to their brand to create that brand awareness. Hashtags can also be used in jest, to be funny, to be witty, to make a point. So once in a while, I'll do this. I'll use a hashtag that I'm not really using for connection. I'm not really using for engagement, but I'm using it as a way to make a point. And I'll include this in my post, hashtag, and I'm, like I did in my blog, I think I'm so funny, but I'm really not. Something really just to stand out and make a point or to make a joke. So that's just another way that we can use hashtags that, again, is a little different from just having that engagement or that boost in our likes. And just FYI, some fun facts, hashtags can now be used in Instagram stories, which is pretty cool. And you can also use emojis. Emojis are searchable through hashtags. So that's a little bit of how hashtags can be used, just to show that they're not just for boosting our Instagram feed or for boosting those likes. And I'm going to go off on a tangent for 1 second, just a little thought about that. Of course, we all want to have the engagement, have likes, and to build our followings on Instagram and other social media places. But I really want to make a point or make a statement here about it's really so much more about the quality of not just our content, but the people we're engaging with versus the quantity. I think it can be tempting for all of us to think we just need to grow a huge following and that's the answer, but it really is about that quality of person, those people who are like-minded, those people who are our ideal clients, those people who are our ideal customers, and connecting with them and building that relationship with them. I think, again, it's all about connection. So many things in business are. less so than that quantity of just thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And I think we can get into a trap. I know some people are tempted to want to buy followers, and I think that is one of the worst places you can spend your money to invest in your business, because those are people that aren't interested in your business. They very well likely aren't like-minded. They very well likely aren't going to engage with your work. It's just fluff. It's just empty numbers. It's just like wearing a padded bra. It looks really good to people on the outside, but you take it off and there is nothing underneath. Anyway, so that's my little spiel on that. With all of this, I think it's so much more important to have that quality over quantity. The same goes with your list size. Quality over quantity. Thousands of people on your list that aren't engaged or who aren't ideal customers aren't doing you any good. They're just costing you money. So, and I'll just say, I know some people with followings or Instagram followings that are relatively small and they're making in the high six figures. So you really don't, again, it's really about that connection and that quality. I also know people who have tens of thousands who haven't figured out how to monetize their Instagram following. So it's not about the numbers, y'all. So I really like to think about hashtags in terms of that connection as well as in terms of that engagement. Is this all making sense? Anyone who's watching this or anyone who's watching on the replay, let me know if you have any questions, if this is making sense so far. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about how these hashtags work, what hashtags we could be using or should be using, and then where to put them. So real quickly, how they work. When you have an image on Instagram and you post it and you add a hashtag to it, what this does is it tells the Instagram fairies to take your Instagram post and add it underneath the hashtag or the heading they have. So that, oh, my phone's ringing. I did not silence that. Hold on. That's how you know this is really live. So what it does is it puts that image or post underneath that heading within Instagram, so that when you go into Instagram, into tags, and you search for that hashtag, that image will now be searchable and findable under there. It's findable a word, but you'll now be able to find that post underneath there. So for example, if I post a photo and I add hashtag cats to it, Instagram is going to take that and add it to the heading hashtag cats and add my image to that feed of images, so that if someone comes in and searches for hashtag cats, I am now able to be discovered underneath that heading. So that's pretty cool. It's a really great way for us to boost visibility. Now, as of today, things change all the time now, but as of today, the order in which our images are added to this feed is based on the time we post our Instagram image, not based on the time we add our hashtags. So that means when you add a hashtag, whether it's 5 minutes afterwards or 3 hours afterwards, Instagram is going to take and add it in that order chronological to the time you posted your image. So this means we want to add our hashtags as soon as possible, because there are a quadrillion people on Instagram posting all the time under hashtags, and it will fall off into the abyss and never get found real quickly if we don't add those hashtags pretty soon after we post them. Does that make sense? All right, so that's a little bit as to how those hashtags work. So let's talk a little bit more about what hashtags to use. I think now we're all pretty clear on hashtags and how they work. But what hashtags do we use? So there are a couple schools of thoughts on this. Some people like to use hashtags that are specific to their post and image. I personally have a bit of a different approach, and I like to use hashtags that are more specific to my ideal clients, to the people I want to connect with, that are more specific to the message I'm sharing, that are more specific to my work, and that are more specific to the actual text I have in my image. I tend to write some pretty long posts that are not always exactly about the image. So that's how I like to choose hashtags. I think with hashtags, it can be, if we're using them for marketing, it can be really great for us to step inside the minds of our ideal clients, of our ideal customers, of those people we want to connect with, and think, what might they be searching on Instagram? What might they be looking for? What might they want to connect with? And try to use those as hashtags versus something a little more generic. So for example, if on a Monday I post an image of a coffee cup, and underneath I'm talking about starting the new week off, setting new goals, setting our week up with intention, I might start off with some hashtags that speak to the people I want to work with: entrepreneurs, creatives, creative entrepreneur, artists. Then I might add some hashtags that speak to the work I do: business coaching, life coach, success coach. Then I might add some hashtags that are specific to what I'm talking about. So new week, fresh start, new goals, goal setting, for example. What I probably won't do is add some hashtags like organic coffee. Well, I might add coffee because I love coffee and that speaks to me as a person. But I'm probably not going to put coffee shop or I love coffee. I'm not going to make too many hashtags that are specific to that image, because when people are searching images, if they're searching hashtags, if they're searching for those hashtags, while I might get a couple initial likes or engagement from them because they like the photo, they're most likely not going to be the people that are going to engage with me and my work. And that's the intention I have behind my Instagram feed and behind having my account. So as with so many things in our businesses and in our lives, it's not about us. And I think that's a really important thing to remember here, even with hashtags. Our hashtags, they're not about us. They're really about our ideal clients. They're about the people we serve. They're about the people we want to connect with. So thinking about those hashtags specific to others and the people we want to connect with and that message we're sharing, I think can go a really long way for that quality versus that quantity. Because again, having a few of those likes from random people because we used I Heart Coffee might feel good and might make us feel great because we have a bunch of likes, but they're not necessarily going to be those people we want to engage with. Now, of course, I will once in a while throw in a couple hashtags just for fun or that show my personality or that show more about who I am, and that is absolutely fine. But with the bulk of my hashtags, that's how I like to look for them. Now, Instagram, as of right now, allows you to use 30 hashtags. So you have 30 hashtags, up to 30 hashtags to play with. So that really gives you room to hit a couple of those different areas. I see this happen all the time. I see a lot of people only use 10 hashtags or use 20 hashtags. And my thought on this is it only takes a minute. Once you have your hashtags organized, use all 30 of them. You might as well get the most hashtag bang for your buck. So use all 30 of those, maximize the benefit you can get from hashtags, and use all 30. So that's my spiel on the 30. Let's see. Do I have anything else there I want to say? No, I think that's pretty good there. So is that making sense for all of you? If you have any questions, let me know. Let's dive into, okay, so 30 hashtags, they need to speak to our people. Where the F do we find them? How do we come up with 30? Especially if we have a bunch of different sorts of posts. So I talked earlier about how we could search those hashtags when, like, for example, hashtag cats, and it'll show all the images. So what I like to do is spend a little time and go into the search bar in Instagram, and you can go, there's actually a button that says tags, and go in there. And I like to play around with some words or phrases that I think my ideal clients might use. And I like to, let's say entrepreneur. I'll search in entrepreneur and see what pops up. And underneath, when you type that in, it'll have a whole list of the word, if it's an existing hashtag, and similar hashtags that pop up underneath, and there will be a number next to it. Now, the number next to that is the number of times that hashtag has been used. I think this is a good thing to know, or a good thing to think about. And this is kind of similar how SEO works. So you'll see that number pop up next to your the hashtag you're looking at. And I really like to aim for a hashtag that's kind of hanging out in the middle. So kind of like Goldilocks, not too hot, not too cold. So ideally, when I'm on my hashtag game and I'm really paying attention to all this, I like to find hashtags that have a number that hovers somewhere between 200,000 and 300,000. And I'll go all the way up to 600,000. I sometimes actually find the larger ones, certain ones work just fine. But I don't like to go too low. I don't like to go into the hundreds or thousands, because most likely that means not that many people are searching for those hashtags. So I'm probably not going to be able to connect with that many people or get that much use out of that hashtag. The flip side, I don't like to go way into the millions or way too high too often with those hashtags, because that means, remember, our post is getting added to that many other posts underneath that hashtag, and it's getting added in the order that we've posted it. So that means a lot of people are constantly adding to that hashtag, and our hashtag is going to fall into that social media black hole real quickly and never be found. So I really like to stick in that middle area. And that's why I made you a cheat sheet, because suddenly coming up with 30 that are in that area of between 200 to 300,000, it's like, holy crap, that's a lot of work to do, especially if we have a lot of different posts. So I spent a couple hours and put those together for you, so all the hashtags on that list fall in that range. So that is my gift to you, because I know what a pain it is, and I hope it's helpful. So again, I like to go into that search tab, type in a word, and see what pops up and check those numbers out. Then you'll get some ideas of other hashtags that pop up underneath, but let's go with entrepreneur again. Then if you click on entrepreneur after you found it, it'll open up a new window, and it'll actually show you all of the hashtags, all of the images that are posted underneath that tag. So good to take a little look and see, do these actually seem like my work, seem like my people? Or for example, if I'm using, what is one I saw the other day? This isn't it, but if you used hustle and it was all people just like burning out and stressed out photos and negative texts, then you might not want to use that hashtag even if you like the word. So good to just take a quick look at those. And then if you look underneath the word, directly underneath, you'll see related, and it'll have a series of hashtags. And those are all hashtags that are related to the hashtag you just used. So if it was entrepreneur, it might pull up entrepreneur life, entrepreneur mindset, solopreneur. It'll give you a whole list of related hashtags. And this is a great place to start searching for similar related hashtags that might be different, that might have that different number set. If entrepreneur is in the millions, that might give you a place to bounce off. And you can take those and then again, search those and see what numbers pop up and continue this cycle until you have your 30 hashtags. Is this making sense? This is how I find my hashtags. This is how I come up with my list. Making sense? Making sense? I hope so. Let me know again if you have any questions. So after we've done this, then what? And how do we organize these? How do we stay out of overwhelm? Because if we had to do this for every Instagram post we posted every day, we would not have a life. We'd be spending hours. It would be really annoying. None of us would ever post. So what I like to do is spend a little time, organize the hashtags that work for the different types of posts I have. And I like to create a couple different sets of 30 hashtags. And I'll organize them based on the types of posts I like to share. So for example, I post hashtags. I post Instagram posts based on new goals. I post hashtags based on mindset. I post Instagram posts based on goals, on motivation, on mindset, on entrepreneurialism, on running your own business, on being a creative. Sometimes I like to have some behind the scenes real life. Sometimes I like to have something that's more meditative or restfulness and spaciousness. Sometimes I like to have it more around self-care. I talk a lot about celebration, so I do some on celebration. I like to create different sets of 30 posts to spend half an hour, an hour, create those for the different types of posts that I use. And then I like to save those in the notes section on my phone so that when I go to post my Instagram image, all I have to do is go into the notes section on my phone, copy and paste that, and then I can share it and I'm done. It takes 2 seconds, and it also means that my image is getting added to that list of hashtags right away instead of 20 minutes later after I've come up with my 30 hashtags. So real easy hack. I'm sure some of you are already doing this, but it makes my life a hell of a lot easier. All right, one more thought on that is, how do we post these hashtags? Where do we put them? Because if we're posting 30 hashtags, we probably don't want to have them in the body of our text. So this is up to you. There's no right or wrong. This is your business, your Instagram feed. You got to do what's right for you. I personally don't like the look of hashtags in the body of my text of my Instagram posts. I think it looks distracting. I think it looks a little spammy. And I tend to write longer Instagram posts. It also takes up some of that valuable real estate. Yes, believe it or not, you can actually run out of space there. So I like to take my hashtags and add them to the first comment underneath my post after I post it. So I'm sure a lot of you are doing this, or a lot of you have seen that. But if you haven't, you'll see this a lot. A lot of people do this. And what I like to do is use a series of asterisks or a series of dots in a row. You can check out my feed if you want to see how I do that with those 30 hashtags underneath. So it just buries it nicely underneath the comments. So it's just a little cleaner, it's a little simpler, it's a little less distracting. That's how I like to do it. Obviously do what works for you. I will, if I'm using a hashtag to make a point or to be funny, throw that up in the Instagram text. Whew, okay, that is a lot of Instagram talk. I'm trying to think, did I cover everything? Let me check my notes. I think that is everything. Okay, so yes, I have some closing thoughts and just a few thoughts on these hashtags just to close us all out. So again, like everything in our business, we are not one size fits all. Our Instagram feed is not one size fits all. What works for one person might not work for another. I'm a big believer in testing things everything in our business. I'm also a big believer in constantly evolving and constantly growing and constantly paying attention to our business, what's working, what's not working, those metrics, those numbers, and seeing where we can improve things, where we can tweak things, and where we should just leave things the F alone. So this goes with our hashtags too. Test some of these out, use them, and see what's working. If they're working, leave them alone. And if they're not doing what you want them to do, go in and tweak them. Consider them a test and just go in and tweak them. There's nothing wrong with making some changes. And so just a thought, just a mindset for all of us around not just hashtags, but every part of our business. I think this is an important thing to note. And again, I do want to close with that thought that hashtags can be used for more than one thing. Yes, it's so great to get that extra visibility and that extra engagement, but they can also be used to build community. They can also be used to find like-minded people in our businesses and in our lives. I think that is valuable and worth noting. And again, it's that quality over quantity. I really want to harp on that. Quality over quantity. Remember, you don't need to have 1 trillion followers to have a successful business. And you don't need to have 1 trillion likes to be successful in your work, to be good at your work, and to feel good about yourself. So I think we can all get trapped into worrying too much about those likes we're getting and using that to mean something about who we are as people or how our businesses are doing. So just want to close on that thought and just remind you that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter that much. It's just social media. So not to get too wrapped up in it. And if hashtags don't work for you, it's not a big deal. Like, no big deal. So just want to leave with that thought, because I do know that some of us can get really caught up there with what those numbers mean, how that affects us, and then just the social media comparison as well. So eyes on your own paper, quality over quantity, but definitely take a look at these and see how you can use hashtags with intention and with a little strategy, and how you can use them to help boost that engagement and to also build your community. So that is what I've got for you. I don't think, unless this isn't showing me, I don't think I have any questions here. So I'm going to hop off and get on with my day, and I've got a client soon. But if you have any questions, if you're watching this on the replay, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in. I'll come back later on and check all of those out with you guys, okay? So I am wishing you your version of success. I'm wishing you a happy Friday, and I'm wishing you some happy hashtagging, and I hope you'll grab that free cheat sheet I made you, and I hope it's super helpful for you. Lots of love.